Hello, this is Janet Michael. In addition to hosting The Valley Today each weekday at noon on the River 95.3, I also produce podcasts, and I'm excited to introduce you to a new podcast series in partnership with Lord Fairfax Community College. Having provided higher education and career training for the past half-century, LFCC is tightly interwoven into the fabric of the Northern Shenandoah Valley and Piedmont regions. Join me every week for conversations with current and former students to hear their funny and inspiring stories as we learn about their journey to higher education, the role that LFCC has played, where they are now, and where they plan to go. We'll also talk to current and former professors about their experiences and best memories of LFCC over the past 50 years. Get every single episode as they're released on our website at theriver953.com under the podcast tab, or you can subscribe for free in Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, on Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search for LFCC Stories. Hello and welcome to The Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Monday as you are listening to the show today. We, of course, have pre-recorded our conversation on the Zoom screen, and I am excited to welcome a newbie to the show, though the organization that she is talking about today isn't a newbie at all. We are on the Zoom screen today with Cheryl Hamilton-Freed. She is the new CEO at Blue Ridge Hospice. Cheryl, thank you so much for meeting up with me today on the Zoom screen, and I'm excited to get to know you a little bit better.
Thank you very much, and I'm excited to be here.
So tell me, I know a lot about hospice as a Winchester native. So I've been around the area for my entire life. And I was telling you before we started recording, hospice has done several different shows on so many different topics with me. How did you find out about Blue Ridge Hospice? What brought you to Winchester?
Well, Blue Ridge brought me to Winchester. I began my career about 27 years ago in the hospice field, in the first hospice in the state of Florida, the third in the nation. Blue Ridge is really not far behind that. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, so I'm very excited. And I have run very large hospice programs in both rural and metropolitan areas, some for-profit, some not-for-profit organizations. And I really prefer working with not-for-profit hospice organizations. I think that they truly embody what the hospice benefit was created for. And so, unfortunately, I had a significant loss. A couple of years ago, I did lose my husband, and that was unexpected, but I was able to bring him home, which he would have wanted, under hospice for about 26 hours, and with our dogs and in our living room, surrounded by family and friends. And it really hit home for me, not that I was inexperienced with the care that we provided, but I had not been a recipient in that particular way. So I took some time working with other hospices around the nation, took some time off and doing some consulting work and helping to support their operations, sort of wondering if I could really get back into this field again on a full-time basis and have the same level of commitment and compassion, or passion, I should say, for this field and this movement. And I got a phone call from the recruitment committee of Blue Ridge Hospice, and it was very intriguing. My husband was originally from Washington, D.C., and we have friends from Alexandria to Culpeper to Bowie, Maryland, and Baltimore. And so I had a support system here, and the level of care and quality of care that Blue Ridge provides was very intriguing to me. And so we started our courtship back in probably late summer. And finally, we both decided that it would be a natural fit for the two of us.
I always like to ask people when they relocate to our area for a position or for school or anything else, do you remember your first experiences when you came into town? I mean, the first things that you saw, what is one of the things that for me, it's always the Old Town Walking Mall. That's the centerpiece for me of Winchester. It's where I always send people who are new to the area. What are some of the things that when you first came to town have become your favorite things now?
Well, the first thing was the drive from the Dulles Airport to into Winchester, which was absolutely gorgeous. I came in early October, was my first face-to-face visit, and it was just beautiful and very picturesque and lovely. And then drove into downtown, and as you said, that was just very appealing to me. I thought this is just a really, you could feel it in your bones how warm and welcoming the people were and the town was. So I I just fell in love with the city, and it solidified my decision that this is a place that I could see myself. I'm very active. I love to hike um, and whitewater raft, and I've been doing that for years. And so I thought this would be a really great fit for the surrounding areas from an activity standpoint for me. So
So it really has been able to check a lot of boxes for you, not just professionally, but personally as well.
yes, it really has. And I've enjoyed such a wonderful career, and I've been so honored to make my career um, in something that I'm so passionate and that I love, which is end of life and care for the frail, aged, and disabled population. So, I've looked at opportunities all over the nation, and um, have tried them in consulting roles as interim positions. Just as Richard was here as interim for a while, I was interim president in Colorado Springs and worked in Jacksonville, Florida, as an interim vice president there for a while, and just to kind of feel out where I wanted to be. So I think that's a perfect way to put it, is that from a professional and personal standpoint, Blue Ridge Hospice in Winchester and the surrounding areas really have checked a lot of boxes for me.
Well, and it's interesting too. You mentioned, you touched on this a second ago, that it's one thing to work in the hospice field and to be a part of a hospice organization. But when you personally have to be on the patient side and have to be the person that they're providing services to, it really is a different experience. I have a lot of friends that have had that same experience where they've worked in hospice or they volunteered for the organization and thought they knew what hospice was, and then had to bring their mother home or had to bring a family member home for hospice to care at the end stages, and it impacts them completely differently than what they expected that it would.
Yes, yes, it did for me, and it's provided me. It's been a long path for me that I continue to walk, and will probably walk the rest of my life. Um, but it took me some time to uh, really get back to a place where I felt that I could contribute in a way that I had contributed in the first part of my career. Um, and in that first part, I was really striving to um, grow professionally. Much of my focus was on my professional life and less on my personal life. And when this significant loss occurred, I reevaluated the importance of having a balance, a good balance in what you do professionally and what you do personally. It sounds cliche, but life is short, and we have limited time. And so it made me definitely have a different perspective. And I think one of the things I want to probably get across, I certainly the medical services, were so important to me, the clinicians and the providers, and that was the only way that I was able to bring my husband home. Uh, and being in hospice for so long, I I'm not that not that I devalued or discounted the other members of the interdisciplinary team, but I said originally, I'm not really sure that I need a social worker, and I'm not really sure that I need a chaplain, and I'm not really sure that I need this service, music therapy, and, all of these types of things that were available to me. But once they were given to me and I was exposed to them, I spent an hour and a half with our social worker or my social worker at the organization that cared for my husband. And I said, wow, I guess I really did need a social worker. And it was one of the most important members of the team. And I shouldn't say just the social worker, but all of the team. And I think that really embodies what hospice is that it's a total team model. And it meets the spiritual, the physical, the social, the psychological needs of the patient, as well as the caregivers, supporting my family, supporting my husband's family. And it gave me a completely different perspective.
And I'm glad too, because that new perspective is what you've brought with you to Winchester. So,
Yes.
that kind of is our benefit as well to a certain degree.
Yes.
Let's take a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about hospice, our hospice organization. You also mentioned about working for-profit and nonprofit hospices. I know Blue Ridge Hospice is a not-for-profit hospice, and that's a big deal. It's very important. So can we talk about that for a few minutes when we come back?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Cheryl Hamilton Freed. She is the new CEO at Blue Ridge Hospice. We're going to talk more with her in just a couple of minutes.
Got a financial decision to make or a goal to reach, but you don't know where to start? You've come to the right place. Introducing Quick Money Chats with the Northern Shenandoah Valley Financial Education Program. Visit tinyurl.com/Quick Money Chat to schedule a virtual chat with a staff member or trained volunteer. We won't tell you what to do, but we will give you the tools you need to choose wisely. And because Virginia Cooperative Extension is part of Virginia Tech and Virginia State, your land-grant universities, you can be sure that our information is credible and trustworthy. And you'll know that we aren't trying to sell you something. Maybe you want to improve your credit score, or reduce your banking overdraft fees, or even figure out if you can afford to buy that car. Sorting through tons of information on the internet can be overwhelming, and sometimes it can be hard to know who to trust. Schedule a Quick Money Chat and get the information you need to take action. Go to tinyurl.com/Quick Money Chat and get financial education personalized for you.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. Happy Monday as you are listening to the show today. We, of course, have pre-recorded our conversation on the Zoom screen. We are chatting with Cheryl Hamilton Freed. She is the new CEO and president at Blue Ridge Hospice. And Cheryl, we were talking in the first segment about the experiences that you had prior to coming to Winchester. You mentioned that you have worked in the past at for-profit hospices and not-for-profit hospices. I've had many conversations with hospice people over the last couple of years about the importance of Blue Ridge Hospice being a not-for-profit. Can you explain one more time, though, the difference between those two?
Well, the biggest difference is that you typically have shareholders or stakeholders involved in for-profit organizations that are looking for returns on their investment in some particular way. Anything that we anything that's donated to us or that is provided to us maybe through our thrift stores or through grants or gifts and personal and corporate gifts go right back into this community. We are locally based. We intend to always be locally based, and we don't have our corporate headquarters that are located in Chicago or Miami, where any of those excess dollars would go and be funneled to. I think we have the freedom to make decisions on costly patients that definitely need our services, and the ability through our patient funds. Um, we have a patient fund account for people that cannot pay or that are underpaid, to help us supplement that care versus making decisions on whether or not we accept patients or provide certain treatments based on the cost of that care.
So, when you
That's
talk about corporate headquarters and being a local hospice, can you remind our listeners what geographic area you cover? Because it's not just Winchester, Frederick County.
No, it is not. We cover Winchester proper, Frederick County, Shenandoah County, Warren County, and Loudoun County, and as well as Clark County.
So it's a
Um,
pretty big area that you're tasked with kind of overseeing. And is that from a size perspective? Is that, in line with some of your previous experience?
yes, well, it happens to be 2,200 square miles of service area. And one of my previous hospice organizations that I worked with covered a very similar size, from Mobile, Alabama through Tallahassee, Florida. So probably a similar type of geography as well. Um, but I believe the mission here at Blue Ridge is unique, and the culture and the staff that I've been introduced to really have a passion for the care that they provide, and they wouldn't have an issue driving miles and miles to make sure that our patients and families are taken care of, and I'm so proud of that.
And I know you took over on the 1st of January. So you're barely a month in, a little over a month in. You're probably still just trying to figure out everybody's names. Thankfully, with hospice, I know they all wear name tags. So that's got to be a little bit of an easy cheat for you. When you walk up to somebody, you can kind of glance at their name tag before you say hello to them. But have you already kind of started to figure out what you're going to do in the coming year and how you're going to lead hospice into its 41st year or 51st year even?
Yes, so I have been doing a lot of listening and learning and getting a feel for the culture and getting a feel for sort of what are some immediate needs that we have. And, I really would like the philanthropic dollars that we take into the organization to begin to provide more services, not just for our underserved or unfunded, um, or underfunded programs that we have right now that we're providing, but really move into more community-based services for those individuals that may need similar care, but that don't qualify for the hospice program. So palliative care programs in the community, um, population health programs, other things that are other programs that will meet a gap that we have for that chronic and serious illness patient. So those are the things that I'm exploring. In order to do that, we're going to have to strengthen our partnerships with our hospital systems. I'm very passionate about faith-based networks and how they can support the community and their church communities, and provide increased access and diversity in for the patients that we serve. So you'll see a lot of that, I think, coming out of the organization in the next year or two. We have a partnership with a local hospital for inpatient, what I call virtual hospice inpatient centers, where they don't necessarily have to come to our center, but we're providing hospice in the hospital at their bedside. Um, for people that really might not be stable enough to move into a center, but we still want to make sure that they get that service and bereavement care after they may pass. I'd like to strengthen that. I'd like to see more inpatient provided in our hospital settings, and so that availability is there for those patients that need that type of level of care. And I think that we can see out of Blue Ridge Hospice really moving into the next level of beyond hospice. And, again, how are we caring for that frail, aged population, disabled population that might not quite be ready for the hospice benefits?
And I think the thing that has always surprised me when I chat with people about hospice is the number of people who don't realize what the actual services are that hospice provides, and the fact that it's not always just for the patient. You mentioned earlier that, as your husband was the patient, but you also had a social worker, you had access to a lot of the programs and the services. And I think sometimes people don't realize family members, children, brothers, sisters, they all have access to all of these ancillary services that are just as important when somebody in their family is going through hospice care.
Absolutely. And that's what differentiates us from a home health agency, for example. We do provide that full interdisciplinary team to support all of those needs that the patient may have, as well as their family. We care for many individuals that have younger children in the household, and so we have grief specialists that can deal with that type of anticipatory grief and that loss. Um, of a loved one. And I do believe that there is a misperception that once you go into hospice, it's, we're sort of hastening death, and that, that's it. And that's we're giving up hope. And we're shifting our hope. We're shifting our hope that we can find comfort. We can make peace. Um, we can see our family members, once again. We can maybe attend, a monumental or celebrate a monumental event in your life without being hospitalized. And we can do that and allow people to do that in a setting that is comfortable for them. There actually was a study that was done by Medicare that indicated that once people enrolled in hospice, that many of those diseases that individuals had, we were actually able to let them live longer. And we're not talking about months or years. We may be talking about weeks. We may and sometimes be talking about a couple of months, but that's because they're having good quality of control of their symptoms, their pain, less hospitalizations, less inpatient stays, keeping individuals, out of inpatient facilities and in the comfort of their own home, where they're surrounded with who they know and cared for in a proper way. And I thought that was fascinating, to see that people could live a little longer, but not just a little longer, but with a higher quality of life.
I remember one of the conversations that I had with one of your predecessors, Ernie Carnevale, and he always used to tell me, he said, Janet, hospice isn't just for those who are about to pass. It is as much for those who are going to be left behind, and we make their life as good as we can make it moving forward without their loved one. And I had never really thought of it from that perspective. And it just really kind of struck a chord with me that that's not how I had always thought about hospice. And he completely changed my perspective with just that one sentence.
Yes, and that is a very accurate sentence. I do believe that our care, because it goes way beyond the time of death for an individual, is really for support for that family. It allows the wife to be the wife. It allowed me to be the wife, and not the caregiver. It allows the son to be a son and not to have to be, the primary caregiver for their loved one. And so that's a very precious time. And it was very good for me to be able to have that experience. And I want everybody to have that sort of death experience and that dying experience with their loved ones.
If somebody is listening today and they want to support Blue Ridge Hospice in some way, they want to write a check. They want to give you their estate. They want to include it into their estate planning. Or, as one of my personal favorites, they want to shop at one of the thrift stores. Where is your website the best first place for them to go? How should somebody get started in reaching out to hospice to support you?
Yes, the website is the best place to go, and it's brhospice.org or blueridgehospice.org. And we do have opportunities there for folks to donate online. But you really covered the gamut. We are pleased to have individuals donate items to our thrift stores, shop at our thrift stores. Volunteer is a wonderful way for individuals to help, not just in our thrift stores, but at the bedside, and interact with our patients. We're keeping COVID top of mind, and we're keeping everybody safe. So we can provide more information about that if you have an inquiry related to volunteering. And certainly grants, corporate gifts, personal donations, leaving Blue Ridge Hospice, or thinking about Blue Ridge Hospice in individuals' wills, and gifting after they pass. So there's many ways, and the money is used purely for unfunded or underfunded care that we provide, and it's purely for individuals in these communities.
Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for taking some time to have a conversation with me today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it too. And, I think the last, in closing, what I would just say is I want people to think about hospice much earlier. And we do accept patients with prognosis of 6 months or less, but we do have patients that have been on the program for a year or more. So the earlier that you get involved, the more benefit that you receive. It is a fully funded Medicare and Medicaid benefit, so there are no copays, no costs related to that. And unfortunately, I had a very different experience, and my time frame was limited. And we do have individuals that come with us with sudden loss, but I encourage individuals with chronic or serious illnesses to make sure they're accessing their hospice benefit earlier in life.
Well, thank you. I will put all of the information that we talked about up on the show notes page. So anyone who is listening and needs to access any of that, it will be there already. Tomorrow is Tourism Tuesday, so I will be back. I'll have a brand new episode of The Valley Today ready to go for you just a few minutes after noon. So meet me here then.